He had given that company 12 years of his life. 12 years of early mornings, 12 years of late nights, 12 years of skipped lunches, missed school events, and quiet sacrifices no one ever noticed. And through it all, Freddie Gavin never once complained. He never asked for special treatment. He never asked for sympathy. He simply showed up, day after day, reliable, quiet, invisible. But on a cold Tuesday morning, everything changed. Freddie was called into the HR office. The blinds were half closed. A folder sat neatly on the table, and across from him sat a woman named Carol. She didn't smile. She didn't ask about his day. She didn't thank him for 12 years of loyalty. Instead, she slid a piece of paper across the desk. Your position has been terminated, effective immediately. Freddie stared at the letter. 12 years, reduced to a paragraph. No warning, no explanation, just a signature line. Freddie thought about the mortgage. He thought about the bills waiting at home. But more than anything, he thought about his daughter, Louisa, the one person who had made every sacrifice worth it. He nodded slowly, folded the paper, and stood up. No argument, no anger, just quiet dignity. But what no one in that office knew, what Carol definitely didn't know, was that later that evening, Freddie would sit down at a dinner table with someone who had the power to change everything. And when she discovered who that person was, the same woman who fired him would be begging for a second chance. Freddie Gavin had never planned to raise a child alone. 12 years earlier, his life looked very different. Back then, his wife Rana was still alive. She had a laugh that filled every room. She had dreams for their daughter before Louisa was even born. But cancer arrived quietly, and it didn't leave. Within 18 months, Rana was gone, just like that. One day, Freddie was a husband planning a future. The next, he was a single father holding a tiny baby and trying to understand a world that suddenly felt empty. There was no time to fall apart. Louisa needed diapers. She needed formula. She needed someone to hold her when she cried at 3 in the morning. So Freddie did what fathers do when life gives them no choice. He kept moving. He took the job at Carthage Financial because it offered stability, not glamour, not huge pay, just steady work. And for Freddie, that was enough.
His routine became predictable. Wake up before sunrise, make breakfast, pack Louisa's lunch, drop her at school, work a full day, pick her up, cook dinner, help with homework, fall asleep exhausted, then wake up and do it all again. Years passed that way. Freddie missed promotions because he couldn't stay late. He turned down transfers because he needed to stay close to Louisa's school. He stayed loyal to the company because stability mattered more than ambition. His coworkers barely noticed him. Managers rarely remembered his name. But Freddie didn't mind, because every evening when he opened the front door, Louisa ran into his arms, and that made everything worth it. By the time Louisa turned 12, Freddie had become something close to invisible at work. New managers came and went, policies changed, departments restructured. Through it all, Freddie stayed the same, reliable, quiet, consistent. Until the morning Carol arrived. Carol had been hired as the new head of human resources. She was known for efficiency. She believed companies should run lean. Numbers mattered more than stories. Within weeks of arriving, she began reviewing employee records. 12 years, no promotions, no management track, average performance reviews. To her, Freddie looked like a statistic. an expendable one. So she scheduled the meeting. No investigation, no conversation, just paperwork. And now Freddie sat across from her holding a termination letter. "You've been a loyal employee," she said mechanically, "but the company is moving in a different direction." Freddie nodded once. He didn't argue. He didn't mention the 12 years. He simply thanked her for the opportunity. That confused Carol more than anything. Most people protested. Most people begged. Freddie simply stood up, collected his things, and walked out. No drama, just quiet resignation. But when he reached the parking lot, he paused. He looked at the building one last time. 12 years. Gone. Then he took out his phone and sent a message. "Dinner tonight still good?" A reply came quickly. "Of course. See you at 7." Freddie smiled faintly. For the first time all day, the future didn't feel quite so uncertain. That evening, Freddie picked Louisa up from school. She noticed immediately that something was wrong. "You're quiet," she said. Freddie hesitated. He had always been honest with her, so he told her the truth. "I lost my job today." Louisa didn't panic. Instead, she reached over and squeezed his hand. "It'll be okay," she said. Freddie laughed softly. "Yeah, it will." Later that evening, they arrived at a small restaurant downtown. Nothing fancy, just warm lights and quiet music. Louisa sat across from him, studying the menu. "Who are we meeting?" she asked. "A friend," Freddie said. A few minutes later, a man walked through the door. Tall, gray hair, confident presence. He spotted Freddie immediately and smiled. "Freddie!" The two men shook hands warmly. Louisa looked curious. "Louisa, this is Mr. Jonathan Hale," Freddie said. Jonathan Hale sat down at the table. If anyone from Carthage Financial had been in that restaurant, they would have recognized the name instantly. Because Jonathan Hale wasn't just a friend, he was one of the largest investors in the entire company. But Freddie had never talked about that connection. Years earlier, he had helped Hale's family during a difficult situation involving financial paperwork. Instead of asking for favors, Freddie simply did his job with honesty. Hale never forgot that. So over the years, they stayed in touch, not business partners, just friends. As dinner began, Hale noticed Freddie seemed distracted. "Everything okay?" he asked. Freddie hesitated. Then he explained what happened that morning. The termination letter, the sudden dismissal. Hale listened carefully. His expression slowly hardened. "Who made that decision?" he asked. "Head of HR, Carol." Hale leaned back in his chair. "That's interesting." Louisa looked between them. "Did something bad happen?" she asked. Hale smiled gently. "Not bad," he said. "Just surprising." The next morning, something unusual happened at Carthage Financial. The CEO received an early phone call from Jonathan Hale. When major investors call personally, CEOs answer. The conversation was short but direct. Hale asked a simple question. Why was Freddie Gavin terminated yesterday? The CEO didn't know the name. He had to check the records. When he did, the situation quickly became uncomfortable. A 12-year employee, clean record, no misconduct, no warning, just a termination order from HR. The CEO immediately called Carol into his office. "Why was this employee fired?" he asked. Carol remained confident. "Cost efficiency," she replied. The CEO slid a folder across the desk. "Do you know who Jonathan Hale is?" Carol nodded slowly. "Of course. He had dinner with Freddie Gavin last night." The room went silent. For the first time, Carol's confidence faltered. "You're telling me that one of our biggest investors personally called this morning asking why we fired someone he clearly respects?"
Carol swallowed. I didn't know they were connected. That's obvious. The CEO leaned forward. Fix this. Later that afternoon, Frady's phone rang. The number looked unfamiliar. He answered cautiously. "Mr. Gavin," a voice said, "this is Carol from Carthage Financial." Frady recognized the voice instantly. "Yes?" "I'd like to apologize for yesterday's decision," she said. Frady remained quiet. After a moment, she continued. "After reviewing the situation, we believe the termination was made in error." "In error?" Frady repeated calmly. "Yes," she said quickly. "We would like to offer your position back immediately." Frady looked across the room at Louisa doing homework at the kitchen table. For 12 years he had given that company everything. Now they wanted him back. He thought about the early mornings, the missed moments, the loyalty that had been so easy for them to forget. "Thank you for the offer," Frady said, "but I think it's time I move in a different direction." Carol sounded shocked. "You're declining?" "Yes." There was a long pause on the line. "May I ask why?" Frady smiled slightly. "Because yesterday showed me something important." "What's that?" "That loyalty should go both ways." A few weeks later, Frady started a new job. It didn't come from Carthage Financial. It came from a recommendation by Jonathan Hale. The position offered better pay, better hours, and something Frady had never experienced before: respect. Meanwhile, Carthage Financial quietly updated its employee review policies. The CEO had learned an uncomfortable lesson. Sometimes the quietest employees are the ones holding the strongest values. Frady never celebrated the moment he turned down the company that fired him. He simply moved forward, the way he always had, steady, quiet, focused on what mattered most. One evening, Louisa asked him something while they were making dinner. "Dad, were you scared when you lost your job?" Frady thought for a moment. "A little," he admitted. "Then why didn't you get angry?" He smiled. "Because sometimes the best response isn't anger." "What is it then?" "Walking away with your dignity." Louisa nodded thoughtfully. And in that moment, Frady realized something. The most important thing he had built over 12 years wasn't a career. It was the example he set for his daughter. And that was something no company could ever take away.